Good morning. My name's Gemma. I'm the Director of Fundraising at Addenbrooke's Charitable Trust. You have all been invited because you have done something rather special for our amazing hospital, in that you have fundraised, or you've given, or you have volunteered, or you've done something to support our hospital. And so from time to time we like to gather people together just to say we're so grateful to you, thank you so very much, and to shine a spotlight on some of the work that's going on in the hospital. I think especially with the year that's gone past, it's quite nice for people to understand what's going on at the hospital. And we're delighted that this morning we are going to focus on children's services. So what's been happening with and without charitable funding, and then what's going to happen in the future, which hopefully you will find rather interesting. ACT has a long history of working with children's services. So over the years, we have funded improvements and equipment and staff posts in the Children's Cancer Ward, in the Children's General Ward, in Children's A&E, in the Rosie, and we're going to hear particularly today about the Children's Ambulance Service that you helped us to fundraise for over the past couple of years, that's launched this year. That was an extension of the baby transfer service, the specialist ambulance service. And we're also going to hear from colleagues in intensive care, so children's intensive care. So we are going to be joined by colleagues this morning. So we'll be joined by Sue Broster, who you can see. Sue is the Interim Director of Transformation and Improvement, and she's also the PaNDR lead. And PaNDR is the name that we give to our children's ambulance service. We're also going to be joined by staff from the Paediatric Intensive Care Unit. They're joining us at a really specific time, and they're coming away from their day job to talk to you today. So if they're held up for any reason, then we're going to completely understand that, because they have to be where patients need them. But we're really grateful that they and Sue are joining us today. And so we'll be joined by Lorraine High, who's the matron on the Paediatric Intensive Care Unit, and Sarah Hardwick, who's the senior sister, a little bit later. In terms of housekeeping, we're recording the event, so if you'd like to share it with anybody afterwards, then you are very welcome to. We do have some questions that have been submitted already, and we will talk about those at the end. But if you do have any other questions, then if you could use the Q&A function, that would be fabulous. And so I hope you have a lovely hour. Please do ask us questions. We'd be delighted to answer them. So first of all, we're going to start off, we're going to talk about PaNDR. So PaNDR is a lovely name for our new children's ambulance service, which is an appeal that we're really proud of at ACT, and we've put a lot of work into, and wouldn't have happened without all of you helping. So a couple of years ago, we started fundraising, and this was to develop the new children's ambulance service to help children be transported safely between Addenbrooke's and other hospitals. And Sue's going to tell us a little bit about this. We raised over £216,000 to furnish 2 ambulances with the equipment that they need to keep children safe. There's lots of you on here who contributed to that appeal, so thank you so much. Among the people that contributed include lots of families. The Chariots of Fire race in 2019 that was run by Hewittson's Charitable Trust, that saw 2,000 runners running around Cambridge, the Mayor of Saffron Walden, and many others. So first of all, we're going to show you a video that was recorded when the service launched in April. Please forgive any background noise. The campus is very busy, but I do hope you enjoy the video.
Today is a really exciting milestone day for children in the east of England. Today is the launch of the Paediatric Retrieval service to work alongside the Neonatal service that's been established since 2003. So working together, the team will be known as the Paediatric and Neonatal Decision Support and Retrieval Service, better managed as PaNDR, as identified on the logo there, really providing care for critically sick infants and children across Norfolk, Suffolk and Cambridgeshire. So the really unique thing about an ambulance and a team like this is we have all the kit that you would have normally on an intensive care, so ventilators, defibrillators, monitors, pumps, everything that you need to look after a very sick child, as well as a highly skilled team of paediatric intensive care consultants and paediatric critical care nurses to look after that child between the hospital and the specialist PICU. So we've got state-of-the-art ventilators, we've got defibrillators, monitors, pumps, everything that you would need to look after you if you were critically sick.
We had a massive campaign to raise funds for the new paediatric ambulance service, and we had a massive race through Chariots of Fire that's sponsored by Hewitsons. We had over 2,100 people running in the Chariots race throughout the city of Cambridge back in September 2019. They managed to raise over £92,000, which is just phenomenal. In total, we've raised enough to help kit out 2 ambulances, which we'll do eventually, but it's great to have this first piece of kit on the road. I think we've got the ANTS history and heritage, and I think that the team have done such a great job in transporting the incredibly sick babies across the region, bringing them to the hospital, getting them to the right place as quickly as they possibly can. To be able to do that for children and have a much faster service, I think is just an amazing achievement, and I'm so proud of our supporters that have made that possible. A huge thank you to supporters. I'm incredibly proud of everything they do. Their imagination in raising funds and getting behind the hospital is so important to us.
So we've had amazing support from Addenbrooke Charitable Trust and from a range of donors, and we wouldn't be here today without their support. So they have fundraised for the kit that we're using that will allow us to go out today to look after children who need us today.
So it gives you a little insight into the ambulance service, and just to echo our thanks to all of you who made that happen. I'm going to introduce Sue now, so hopefully I won't embarrass you, Sue, but I've worked with Sue for a number of years. Sue is one of these really special people who spends a lot of her time doing clinical work, and so she really champions the team that run the ambulance service, collecting children safely and looking after their families. She's also involved in global health work that we do through our Cambridge Global Health Partnerships work within the charity, and she's now taken on this exciting role that means that she's looking at innovation in the hospital to help make the hospital even better. So she's got rather a lot on her hands, and yet she's still so kind to spend time with the charity and be with us today. So Sue, over to you.
Thank you, Gemma, and thank you for that really kind introduction. I'm just going to share my screen, and then I can talk with a few slides, which might be helpful for people to see. So I hope that everybody can see that. And I'm really delighted to be here. So I really wanted to take the opportunity to say thank you to all of you, and to talk to you a little bit more about what PaNDR means, I think, for children and for babies in the east of England, and really explain what a difference your support has made. And I do this absolutely on behalf of the team I work with. So this is a team that makes a difference, and I'm just one of a big team who we all feel it's an absolute privilege to do what we do, and we all wanted to say thank you. Just going to see if I can move my slides on. Apologies for the technical. There. Hopefully you can see the next slide now. So that I just thought it might be helpful to give you a bit of background about the area that we cover. Some of you will know this, some of you may have used the service as ANTS, as we were before. So the east of England is a huge area. It's 10% of the UK landmass. We have around 1.5 million children in the east of England, and 80,000 babies are born every year. So I think, hopefully that gives you a little bit of the scale of why a service such as this is really important to be hosted in the region, for the region, providing care for babies and children who live in the region. The final thought, just before I talk more specifically about what you've done and how you supported us and what I think the future looks like for neonatal and paediatric retrieval, is just to say that this is important partly because of the scale that I've just talked to, but also because there is really good evidence that having a team who is specifically trained, both from looking after babies and looking after critically sick children, who are specifically trained to work in those areas with dedicated kit and dedicated ambulances, that we provide better outcomes for the children we're looking after. So it's incredibly important what we do, because it offers something that makes a real difference to babies and to children. And that's why I think we're so grateful for the support you've given us to be able to do that. So if I just go back a little bit, I think Shelley talked on the video about the connection that ACT has had with us over many years. So prior to the launch of PaNDR, which was launched in April this year, there's been a long established neonatal service in the region. It was set up in Addenbrooke in 2003 and was one of the first in the country. And this is to move the smallest babies who may need to move from one unit to a much more specialist unit. That might be babies who are born too early, babies who are born unexpectedly sick, or babies who've got a congenital anomaly that needs specialist treatment, for example, under the neurosurgeons or under other teams who are based at Addenbrooke. So the service has grown hugely since those first days. So it started in 2003. And actually, I was working in Addenbrooke when the team was set up on the neonatal unit. It had one team and we worked 9 to 5, 5 days a week. And now we are a service that has grown from 200 transfers a year to around 1,400 transfers a year. And we travel the distance from London to Cape Town every month and cover about 100 to 120 transfers every single month, which just shows the scale of what's been possible with the support that you've provided. And the relationship with ACT has been a really important one to us. That the fundraising over the years has included things like, and you can see here, a fourth incubator. And this is essentially a life-saving mobile intensive care for babies. And you can see on there that there is the incubator to keep babies warm, monitors, ventilators, pumps. So essentially, we can look after babies who are, as I say, critically sick, born too early, need specialist care, and be able to move them safely from one hospital to another, providing mobile intensive care on wheels. So what's different now? So it's long been recognised, I think, that there's a need to have the same provision of high quality retrieval services for children that is based in the east of England. Historically, we've been completely dependent and reliant on an excellent service, but one that is based out of London. And that, as you can see when I showed you right in the first slide, how big a region that is and how many children live in the east of England, that has a really significant impact. So it was hugely exciting to finally be able to go ahead in April this year and launch the first phase of the paediatric retrieval service, initially supporting Norfolk and Suffolk, Cambridgeshire as phase 1. And it's already made a really significant difference on a number of different levels. So we've provided advice as the paediatric team to 37 hospitals, and clinical teams have already taken over 19 emergency transfers, so transfers for children who needed life-saving interventions, for which the paediatric team have been able to do that. What's also really unique about the way we've been able to support and develop this service is that it allows us to work together as the neonatal team and the paediatric team. And an example may be last week when the neonatal team were already busy with extremely sick, very premature babies born in another unit where both teams needed to be supporting that unit. And the paediatric team were able to provide support to a newborn baby who was born at term, who needed urgent surgical review. And they were able to support us to do that transfer. This week, when the paediatric team were already committed to another transfer, the neonatal team were able to support them in moving a child who needed a review for cardiac for heart reasons down in Great Ormond Street for London, and we were able to support that transfer. So by both teams working together and with the support you've provided, we can provide care to seriously ill babies and children up to the age of 16 right across the region. And that is something that is both a privilege to do, but also something that I think is incredibly important to do for the children who live here. So we've really now been able to start the journey of having a team in the region that can reach the hospitals more quickly. It can transfer patients sooner with state-of-the-art equipment and with the opportunity to work across both the children's and neonatal service to provide the best care we can as soon as we can to the patients who need it. So we couldn't do this without you. And ACT has been absolutely instrumental in supporting us. And I think, as Gemma said, that ACT have raised 216,000 to fund equipment for the children's team, including the Chariots of Fire race back in September 2019, which raised over £92,000. And specialist equipment includes, as you see here, defibrillator, monitors, pumps, ventilators, everything that you would expect to be by a hospital intensive care bed, but it's designed to withstand and be used on the road. And it's been specially adapted so that it can stand the bumps and the vibration and the very small space that we have to work in. And it's all designed to fit inside this really specially adapted ambulances that we use for travelling to emergencies for both neonatal and paediatric patients. So this is just some examples of some of the kit that we use. At the top, you'll see the little one with the lungs on. That is a ventilator, which allows us to breathe for a child on the road. And you can see it's very small and very compact and very different from some of you who might have seen ventilators by bedsides. And we may have seen those in the news over the last few weeks and months. How much smaller and more compact that is to be able to allow us to move that and use that safely. And if you look at the picture with those of us standing in front of the ambulance, you can see there it's just placed right at the bottom underneath the bed, and you can see how neat it is just sitting there for us to be able to provide the care that we need. You've got a range of pumps which are just underneath and next door to that, a defibrillator which allows us to do two things, both for us to be able to monitor the heart rhythm but also to treat abnormal heart rhythm. So the real uniqueness of some of the kit you've provided for us is it does several things, and that becomes really important when you can see we've got a small trolley that can provide, you know, intensive care to the sickest of children, but it's very small, it's very neat, it's very compact, and it's easy for us to be able to move it around. And that's all because of the fundraising that you've done and have supported that has allowed us to do that. So finally, it's really just for me to say, I think, a truly heartfelt thank you from all of us in the PaNDR team. And it is a team, as I said, that makes this happen, and I'm just one part of that. It's a real privilege to do the job we do. And our goal is to develop the service to reach more children of a wider area. But I think it's fair to say that we can't do this without your support. And it's really can't stress enough, I think, that you're supporting something that is both life-changing for children and potentially life-saving for children and babies across the east of England. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Sue. I think that was really interesting to see the kits on the trolleys and be reminded how tiny those pieces of kit are, because you're inflating babies' lungs when they're really tiny, and everything has to be so much smaller, doesn't it, to make sure that you're looking after and not hurting the baby. And transferring a child to and from hospital is stressful at the best of times, let alone when they're critically ill. So thank you very much. We are now joined, we have a great privilege of being joined by colleagues from the Paediatric Intensive Care Unit. So Paediatric Intensive Care looks after the sickest children in our region. So these children might be those who've had significant operations. It might be children who have suffered trauma in car accidents, or it might be that they have severe illness in the winter. So they're looking after a whole host of different cases. And what always surprises me when I go up to paediatric intensive care, which hasn't been for a long time, is how calm and quiet it is. So maybe we need to talk to Sarah and Lorraine, who join us now, to find out how on earth do you keep it so calm on paediatric intensive care. So you're going to chat to us a little bit about what happens on the ward and the kind of things that you do. So we're in your hands, ladies. Thank you.
Thank you, Gemma. Can I just confirm you can hear us? Brilliant. Okay, so my name's Lorraine and I am the matron for paediatric intensive care and also for the PaNDR service, which Sue has beautifully just spoken about. And here with me is Sarah, who is one of my senior sisters, who's just going to give you a short outline about what PICU looks like on a day-to-day basis, and then obviously what we've experienced recently in COVID, and then I will carry on. So do excuse the face mask. If you can't hear us, please just nod, Gemma, give us a clue.
Yeah, tell me to speak up. So yeah, as Lorraine said, I'm one of the senior sisters on PICU. We are the only PICU for the Eastern region, and we've got 13 beds, 8 of which are intensive care beds and 5 of which are high dependency beds, though particularly during the winter, that's quite flexible, and often we'll do more ITU than HDU, and during the summer vice versa, more HDU than ITU. We take patients from 0 to 16 years, so anybody that's been home from either a maternity unit or a neonatal unit, or is transferred to us at term from the neonatal unit, we'll take up until 16, and we take both medical and surgical illnesses. We've got many specialities in Addenbrooke which all feed into our unit, including oncology, respiratory, neurology, neurosurgical and endocrine, so we work with all those teams. And the patients we get come internally from our own hospital, so from the A&E department here, from the neonatal department here, or from one of our children's wards, or they come from the district general hospitals in the Eastern region, so from either from places like the James Paget in Yarmouth to Chelmsford, Colchester, Kings Lynn, and they'll either be transferred by the London Transport team or recently by our own team. We work as part of a really large MDT with doctors, physiotherapists, dietitians, play specialists, counsellors, psychologists and speech and language therapists, and I think that's one of the main reasons I enjoy working on the unit, is it's a real team effort. And we admit children who are acutely unwell, so come into hospital really unwell, or more elective admissions who come post surgery. We also have a number of children who are really technology dependent in the community, so need assistance with breathing at home, and they come to us for initiation of that treatment, for training of the parents and their care team, and for periodic reviews. We're also the regional centre for paediatric trauma, so we take trauma from across the Eastern region. A lot of that will come directly into A&E from wherever they've had their accidents. The intensive care patients that we look after require one-to-one nursing care. Many of them, like Sue was showing you, are on a ventilator to do their breathing for them. A lot of them are on medications to maintain their blood pressure, so they require a high level of nursing care. And then the high dependency care patients are usually 1 nurse to 2 patients, and they're with us usually for close monitoring to look for signs of deterioration. Often there's a step down after needing intensive care to make sure that they're improving. And yeah, that's generally the unit. Obviously COVID, like for the entire world, has caused lots of changes and challenges for us. Some of them being the wearing of full PPE for a lot of our ventilated patients, which is restrictive and difficult to communicate in. Big challenges with supporting families. You know, they all have to be, the patients and the parents have to be swabbed. They have to social distance. There was a huge amount of fear about being in hospital during particularly the first 2 surges of the pandemic, and also for us creating red and green areas to make sure we were keeping patients safe that weren't at risk or didn't have COVID. Thankfully, though, during COVID, children don't actually suffer very serious complications very often from COVID, so we have actually been quieter than would be our usual, and we have probably had our quietest winter last winter because of that. Alternatively, adult ITU doubled their bed capacity during the COVID surges, and so because of that we took patients up to the age of 25 on the unit, and we also redeployed our staff to all the adult ITU areas. Some staff went for occasional shifts and other staff went for weeks to help up the adult side out.
Okay, so that's a bit of a summary of obviously our unit and what it was like for us from COVID. So I guess my point is to say thank you very much for all the small gifts that you gave us through COVID, because that has made such a difference to staff morale and well-being. So some of the things that you sent us, anything from tea bags to fruit to hand cream, was very well received, and I can feel Sarah nodding next to me. And actually some of the things that you've done, we've actually tried to continue as a unit. So this last month we had Seeds of Gratitude, where we just had a small seed pot that went into an envelope, and we asked the staff to actually write something to another member of staff about how grateful they were for the work they're doing, and as a morale boost. We've also done a chocolate of gratitude as well, so you certainly inspired us to actually help with those things. And obviously we don't have a budget for these things, so you know, we saved Christmas chocolates, for example. So what we were donated at Christmas we hid away and tried to save it to come out a different time, which you know, has been really helpful. So you've absolutely inspired us to do little things like that that have made a difference to get us through some sort of very difficult and challenging times throughout the COVID period. So I think we've learned a lot about staff wellbeing, and ACT have certainly assisted with that, I think, and that's made a difference. At the moment, from a PICU perspective, you have very kindly donated money to refurnish our parents' accommodation up in the unit. So our parents' room at the moment, you are redecorating for us, putting in a brand new kitchen and some new sofas. So we are situated in an older part of the hospital, where we are incredibly cramped, as you know, Gemma, from visiting. So we don't have a great deal of space, and our parents obviously need somewhere to go, to grab a drink, to have 5 minutes that is away from the actual bed space, but is still close enough that they don't feel detached from their child. And that's really important for us. And the quality of our space is very poor. So you're certainly helping to make an environment which is calming and friendly, and just allows them to have a bit of space and a bit of time to themselves, which is really important. For the families, it's so intense to be with their child 24/7 in an intensive care environment. We don't provide any entertainment for them. All they have is a monitor to stare at all day, day and night, and nurses bustling around their child. So it's quite difficult for them sometimes they feel guilty if they leave their child. They only ever leave for food and sleep. So to be able to have somewhere really close where they don't feel guilty, that's really, really important for the families. So we are absolutely grateful for that. I think the other thing that we would like to talk about is how PaNDR and PICU are connected. So obviously I'm matron for both the PaNDR service and also for PICU. And it's making a huge difference to PICU in the fact that we now feel that we can accept children that are from our local area in a timely way, and not having to rely on a London team to collect children that we know are critically sick. So often we will know about a child in the north area, that north of the region, that we know is very, very sick, because we've had contact with the local team trying to give them advice. But knowing then that obviously somebody from London would have to come out to retrieve them is quite sort of anxiety provoking for the team here. So knowing that we were able to send our own team out to get to the child in a more timely way has been really beneficial, and something that we have appreciated in the first month and a half of actually launching the service. I think the second thing that's really nice is that the nursing team here are able to rotate into the PaNDR service. So they are now seeing continuity of care. They're actually, you know, sort of seeing the child at their sickest moment when they're first presenting in their local district hospital. They then are able to pick them up, transfer them safely to their own unit, and then obviously follow through that care and continue to care for that child and family until we're able to discharge them back to their local, or indeed, you know, onto a ward here, which I think is also really very beneficial, sort of with the joined up service. And I know Sue has spoken to you a lot about sort of the pick and nick combining from a PaNDR perspective, but I think the connection to the ITU as well is completely valuable, and is something that we can, you know, we would like to foster and continue to support. And that sort of helps obviously me doing the dual role as well, that we're able to facilitate that. I think that's really important. I think again, thank you for all the equipment that you've donated to PaNDR. Our PICU did have some very outdated equipment, but it wouldn't have been fit for purpose. So it's a real privilege to be able to have equipment that we can rely on as well. So some of the old equipment that we did have on PICU that we had kept should we need to do emergency retrievals, we wouldn't have been able to rely on. And obviously that was something that we were asked potentially over the COVID period, would we be able to transfer sick children? But unfortunately we had to make the decision that that wasn't possible because the equipment was too outdated and wasn't going to necessarily be reliable. So as soon as PaNDR came online in April, that did make a huge difference to us.
Thanks, ladies. I think I'd forgotten about the impact that COVID would have had on you with transferring staff out. I think us being close to the hospital, you know, we could see that everybody from paediatric gastroenterologists were helping out in intensive care, and everybody just sort of threw themselves into it, particularly sort of January to March time. And I think that's probably brought paediatric and adult intensive care closer together. Hopefully everybody is back now where they need to be in their spiritual home. We know you've got an incredibly busy unit, and we're really grateful for you coming to talk to everybody today. Just to say, you know, thanks for coming to say thank you. I think we've got a long history of funding so much on the paediatric intensive care unit, from pain relief, infusion pumps to ventilators to changes in the wards, and you know, we will keep doing whatever we can, and our plans for the Children's Hospital will come to life soon enough, and we're going to talk about that a bit later. But yes, hopefully in a couple of years you'll be in your new home on campus. Thanks for joining us. I know you do have to leave, but we appreciate you coming along, so thanks very much.
No, thank you, Gemma. If anybody has any questions, please feel free to email myself or to Sarah. We're more than happy to answer any questions at all.
Thanks. I'll let you know if we have any unanswered at the end. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you very much.
So we're going to watch a couple of videos now, and we're going to hear from some a family that has fundraised, and a little girl that has fundraised for us, and I think they can really put it into words best, you know, why they did it, and they both have their own reasons for doing it. So we're going to watch the first video now.
Hello, my name's Aya, and I have Freeland-Shoulder syndrome, and I'm 7 years old.
Isla has recently completed a challenge and raised some money for ACT. How much have you raised, Isla?
I would say we're over 11.
11 what?
11,000.
Yeah, we've just raised over £11,000 for ACT. Why did we want to do it for them?
Just to give back for all they've been helping me and other people.
Yeah, we wanted to say a really big thank you to Addenbrooke and everybody that works there. Isla was born in Addenbrooke, and her syndrome is very rare. And so we have been under your care since day one, and we couldn't have done it without you. You guys are amazing. So we wanted to say a big thank you and to help in any way possible. So Isla got on a trike, and she raised the £11,000 riding 50 miles on her trike. All of you, from the midwives, the nurses, the doctors, the receptionists, in every department that we have seen, have been and do every day go beyond, above and beyond for us. So this was a way that we wanted just to do a little something for you. So what do we want to say to everybody?
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's got me again. I'm sorry. Totally unprofessional. I think Isla and her mum are very special, deserve their own show. They're very, very sweet. And the fact that a little girl can raise £11,000 from rising her trike is just so inspirational. So we're going to share that with the whole of the children's department, all the staff. And we're going to do the same with the next video, because I think we need to make sure that the staff know how appreciated they are. So now we're going to see a video about the Gallagher family, who were looked after by aunts when Mia and Cameron were born 3 months premature.
Hi, I'm Derek.
I'm Stacey.
I'm Cameron. I'm Mia.
And together we are the Gallagher family. Now, family is a word that can be taken for granted sometimes, but certainly not in this household. It's hard to believe it was just over 9 years that Cameron and Mia were welcomed into this world, albeit 3 months early. They were very, very ill, but luckily for us, they were born into the spectacular unit of neonatal intensive care at Addenbrooke's, and they remained in intensive care for 88 days until they were strong enough to come home with us. Now, quite simply, we will always be massively in debt and give our supreme gratitude to Addenbrooke's for allowing us to become the family that we have been. So, thank you, Addenbrooke's.
The Gallaghers have been such passionate fundraisers, and they're really very special, so we're really grateful to them. So I just thought I'd say a little bit about what ACT is doing now. So obviously we've had a busy year, as Sarah touched on. In that last March, we decided that we would run an emergency appeal to support the hospital during the COVID pandemic. Thanks to people like you, we raised 1.2 million in 6 weeks, and then we quickly spent the money to make sure that we were supporting staff and patients wherever possible. So hopefully you've seen from the latest newsletter, which is called Impact, that we spent that money on staff wellbeing areas for people who were working in intensive care units, the existing intensive care, and then the new intensive care units that were opened up specifically to cope with COVID, looking after staff from a psychological well-being perspective, so enabling them to have someone to talk to or to do trauma release exercises. We invested in coronavirus research to make sure that we were looking at asymptomatic transmission, which then became the the national standard for looking for transmission in asymptomatic people. So making sure we were picking up where staff had coronavirus but were asymptomatic to keep our patients safe and pull them out if necessary. We funded iPads to help intensive care staff talk to patients who don't have a voice, who are on ventilators, to understand how they're feeling, if they're hungry, are they in pain, are they thirsty, do they have dry mouth, which is really common in intensive care, and actually to help people say goodbye, because we weren't allowed to have visitors, and the staff said that that was really important to them. So we've had a year really focused on supporting the hospital through coronavirus, and pleased that we were able to do so much to support them. We did have some money from Captain Tom's fundraising, which seems like a lot of money. We were able to spend our money on more iPads to help with families communicating with their patients, but we were really able to do the work that we did because we raised 1.2 million that we could spend quite quickly. So now we are focusing on other projects that are important to the hospital. So we have a live campaign to fundraise for a surgical robot. This is to fund an extra robot for the hospital. Our current one is fully used for urology patients, for radical prostatectomies, for bladder cancers, for kidney cancers. We are now trying to fundraise for a second robot that will help us extend that surgery to 6 new specialties. And so that includes gynecological cancers, it includes gynecological conditions that aren't cancer, it includes head and neck cancer, includes colorectal cancer, HPB surgery, which is hepatobiliary, which is the pancreas, and so you're going to hate me for not being able to explain that properly, but the complex workings of the inner anatomy. So far we've raised £120,000 towards our 1.5 million target, and we just launched that a couple of weeks ago. So that is our primary focus for this year. Looking ahead, ACT is committed to fundraising for both a children's hospital and the cancer hospital, both of which are on a timeline to open on campus in 2025. We're not asking for support right now, but we will be asking you and the public to support us once we've raised a proportion of the money, but we have started that process. So we're going to show you a video about the Children's Hospital, which we're delighted has been voiced by Stephen Fry, just to give you a little bit of inspiration about what might be to come. And we will keep you fully briefed on developments as the project develops.
This is the very first of its kind. A new approach to healthcare. A new type of children's hospital. A hospital built from scratch, which understands the whole child, drawing on research into mind and body, to treat mental and physical health together, seeing a person, not just a patient, taking care of them, not just their illness. Why should it stop a child playing, laughing? Why should it stop them staying with their friends and family? This is care that goes beyond hospital walls, stretching further into the community, closer to their favorite spot, to their front door. It's treatment that understands the child and the adult they'll become. This is a whole new way of thinking. Genomic research that personalizes medicine, which will help young people feel better now and long into the future. A beacon of biomedical expertise in the heart of Cambridge that will transform how we treat illnesses in our region and positively impact children's healthcare the world over. Cambridge Children's Hospital. This is a whole new way.
So that's a little trailer of what's to come. We're very excited and looking forward to fundraising for the Children's Hospital. So we're going to go to questions now. So I'll start with pre-submitted questions and then see if we've had any others that have been submitted. Sue, wave at me if there's any that you particularly want to answer. So the first is there a hospital school for children who have to stay in hospital for a given time? So the answer is yes, we do have a school right now. It's called the Pilgrim School. It has an Ofsted rating, which is outstanding. And so that makes sure that children are still connected with schooling during their stay. But education is delivered in different ways depending on how ill the child is. The great news is that we're going to make sure that school is a fundamental part of the new Children's Hospital, and that's being considered in the design. But the idea is that we will have school without walls, so it won't just be a schoolroom plonked in the middle of the building. It will be thought about how children access that. So it could be in a variety of different ways, and I think that's important given that this is going to integrate both physical and mental health care. So yes, we absolutely will still have one in the Children's Hospital. The second question, which might have been answered by the video, is please can you talk about children and young people's mental health within the Children's Hospital, and tell us if you'll be learning from users' experiences, which I think is a great question. So you'll have heard from the video that yes, we are going to be the first to integrate physical and mental health care. So there'll be integrated wards that focus on the child and making sure that this hospital is purpose built around children and thinking about them. That's going to be core to the design of the hospital and the ethos of the hospital. And the hospital can't be designed without input from the people who use it, and that will be the staff and that will be patients. And we're really delighted that there's a children's network that has been set up to help advise on the project, and we have 500 children who have already agreed to be part of that network. So absolutely, co-design is central to the project. Question number 3 is, will you need a new 6 children's trust unit in the children's hospital? So the PQ team talked about family accommodation, a parents' room of sorts, and we don't have a lot of space for that right now. We heavily rely on Acorn House and Chestnut House, which are the units run by the Sick Children's Trust, and parent and family accommodation will be absolutely fundamental to making sure that that is within the new children's hospital, and that's being considered in the design stages which we're at now. So what we're hoping to do is create more wellbeing spaces for families to take time out from the wards, so that you thought about the family unit, including siblings as well. So yes, that will absolutely be part of the new children's hospital. I'm just going to have a look to see if we've had any other questions submitted. Sue, I think we had one for you. So about PaNDR, after phase 1, will we see PaNDR being extended over further parts of the east of England, for example, Bedfordshire, Hertfordshire and Essex?
Yes, so, thanks, Gemma. That's an excellent question. So the neonatal team already covers the whole of the east of England and has done since 2003. And the aim is that the goal is to extend the paediatric service, which currently just covers Norfolk, Suffolk and Cambridgeshire, to cover the whole of the east of England as well, mirroring exactly what happens for the neonatal team. And we're working with NHS England about how we might do this. I think it's increasingly recognised that relying on, albeit a truly excellent team from London, with all the demands that they already have on their own service, that this isn't sustainable in the longer term, and it's important that we do something different for the children in Beds, Herts and Essex. The reason we started with phase 1 was just because Norfolk, Suffolk and Cambridgeshire is even further away from London than Beds, Herts and Essex. It's not because there's a preference for one or the other. The goal is to cover the whole of the east of England in exactly the same way we do for neonates now.
Thanks, Sue. Sue, I think I know the answer to this, but I might need your help on it. So this is about the new parents' room on the PQ. Is that parents' room separate from Acorn House run by the Sick Children's Trust? So I believe that it is, because Acorn House is across campus, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it is separate to the Acorn Trust. Sick Children's Trust is an absolutely fantastic resource. I think this is separate and right on the unit for those parents who really need to be next door to the sickest of the children. By default, everybody who's on PICU is extremely unwell, but sometimes it requires something very different for some parents.
From recollection, I remember that's just a quiet space away from the bedside. So as they were talking about, the only thing parents can do is stare at the monitors. Yeah. So I think it's stepping away, isn't it? Rather than being a place to live, cook, rest and sleep, which is probably the key difference. So I hope that answers your questions, Samantha and Maxine. We don't have any more questions coming through, but if you do have any that occur to you after the event has finished, then please feel free to get in touch. We love to take questions and see if we can answer them. But otherwise, I'm just going to say a final thank you to Sue for sparing your time this morning, just reminding our donors that we're so grateful for everything that they do. All of this amazing stuff that we've talked about this morning couldn't be done without their generosity and kindness. And just to say to you, Sue, we all appreciate all of the hospital staff and the incredible work that they're doing. We're hearing that from our supporters on a regular basis. So we'll make sure that we pass on those compliments and those thanks to buoy them up. So thank you very much. Thanks everybody for joining us. We'll let you know when our next event is, but take care and have a nice day. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Rupert Warden-Hill. I'm 11 years old and I've raised money for Addenbrooke's Charitable Trust. I painted stones on Aldborough Beach, and this year, because of coronavirus, I chose this lovely rainbow design. I've got 2 pebbles here. And they've been really popular, and I chose Addenbrooke's because all of the hospitals have been working really hard, but I just live really near to there, so I thought that was a good hospital to choose. Thank you so much to Addenbrooke's, and bye-bye from me.
Hi, I'm Aria, and I've raised over £2,000 by cycling 200 kilometres. I wanted to raise money for Addenbrooke's Charitable Trust because my sister was ill and I wanted a children's hospital in Cambridge. Thank you, Addenbrooke.
Hi, I'm Kieran. In 2020, I did a 60-mile bike ride fundraiser over a span of 2 weeks to raise money for the Addenbrooke Hospital. For my last one, I went from the hospital that started off my journey all the way to the school that finished it. And then, I wanted to do the fundraising in order to say thank you to all the staff from C2 who helped me and supported me all throughout what happened in 2019 and my childhood cancer and that. And also to help other children in the same situation that I was in 2 years ago.
Hello, my name's Jack Chambers. I have been doing a sponsor a drama day at school for raising some money for the Cambridge Children's Hospital. Thank you, Addenbrooke.